Welcome back, everybody. Gaming Grandpa here with part 3 of my tutorial for the MLS and Football Manager 23 titled MLS Explained. Today I'm covering terms and definitions. First off, there's a couple things I want to talk about. Some terms I'm going to be discussing them in their appropriate episodes, such as waivers, drafts, free agency, that type of thing. They'll be in a whole other video. I just felt it was easier since I was going to pretty much touch base with that. Might as well cover it then. Second of all, the terms that I'm talking about, some of them I actually got from the MLS rulebook. Other ones I tried to simplify them in my way to help you understand how it benefits you in Football Manager. Okay? Now, MLS player rights are by far the most complicated term to understand. It's very convoluted, very unpredictable, I guess is a good way to say it, because it's really hard to figure out how this transpires, and I'm going to try to explain it the best I can. The MLS player rights basically is when a player signs with a club, all the rights involving that player are transferred from the club or transferred to the club from the league. Remember I talked about when a player signs for a team, they're signing for the league basically. That's pretty much what this is. As long as that player is on that team, the player rights involved don't really matter because, you know, he's on your team. You can do what you want with him. Sell him, you can trade him, you can waive him, release, do a bunch of things with him. Where we have the problem is when that player is no longer on your team, but he still has a valid contract. Even though he was waived or released, it's very complicated, so just kind of bear with me. These are the different ways that players' rights are transferred. Basically, any time that the player's contract is now with a new MLS club. Okay, that involves trades. That's the main reason why rights are transferred is through trades. Players claimed from the waiver wire. I will get into the waiver wire in a future episode. But basically, a player has been waived by Team A, and now Team B claimed them from the waiver wire, and all the rights are transferred to Team B. Players that are signed in the waiver, re-entry, or the expansion draft, the rights are transferred to the team, the drafting team. Or the parent club doesn't match an offer from another MLS club for that player. And I asterisked that one because I'm going to cover it here in a different format here pretty quick. There's a lot of other ways that rights are transferred, but they're not really pertinent to FM23, so I'm not going to cover them. Ways that players' rights are maintained. Okay, basically, the player's no longer on my team, but I still maintain them rights, so other teams can't sign him without pretty much getting hold of me. That's pretty much what that means. Restricted free agents. I will cover free agency in another episode, but basically, I waive or release a player. He still has a valid contract, so he's sitting at home waiting, hoping that somebody else is going to pick him up. Otherwise, he's going to be playing Xbox until his contract runs out, and then he's a free agent, okay, or a unrestricted free agent. Now, while he's sitting at home, he gets a phone call from Sporting KC because being St. Louis City's rivals, they want to, take over all the players we cut for some reason. Anyway, they call him and say, hey, we want you to play for us. Come play for us. Here's an offer. We'll get an email that says, hey, Sporting KC offered this player a contract. Do you want to match it? If we say yes, then we have to match that contract, and the player has the right to refuse it. Now, whether or not he accepts or whatever, as long as we offer that contract, then we maintain the rights if he does not sign with Sporting KC. I hope that you understand that, because it's convoluted. Okay. Now, if he chooses to sign with KC and we don't want to match the offer, then of course our rights are not ours any longer. Okay. Confusing, I know. Another way is when youth academy players are not retained by our parent club. Once youth academy players hit a certain age, they are no longer in our youth academy. They're just sitting out there in the free agent pool, ready to sign with another team. As long as it's not another MLS team, they can sign with whoever they want to. But if it's another MLS team, then we maintain their rights until we give them up. Does that make sense? Anytime a player leaves the MLS, we own the rights still. If he chooses to come back into the MLS, then the team that wants to sign him has to negotiate with us. Player rights are a tradable asset. It doesn't really come into play that often, but every now and then it does. And I'm going to show you an example of where it could have come into play. In my current save with St. Louis City. Here's an example of a restricted free agent, Vinicius Melo. He popped up on my scouting report. I have my scouting local kids. I don't know. He was with Charlotte FC, signed from Brazil. Now, I don't know if he's in Florida. I don't know if he's back in Brazil. I don't know if he stayed in North Carolina. I don't know. He might be working at the Piggly Wiggly. I don't know. The bottom line is he is a restricted free agent. Charlotte still owns his rights, and I didn't know that until I went to offer him a contract, and then here's what popped up. That little notice, which is the second image, popped up that said trade for player rights, and I'm thinking, are you freaking kidding me? I want to sign this kid. Oh, wait, maybe I'll wait until he goes overseas again, then I'll sign him. Nope, that doesn't work either because Charlotte still owns the rights to this kid, okay? That is a way that you'll know that another team owns the player rights. And once again, you might play an entire 20-year save and never run into this. But it just so happens that I ran into it in my first year in St. Louis trying to build my team. Because who wouldn't want this kid on their team? I mean, look at that. He's a solid player. And for 19, he has plenty of room to grow. So who wouldn't want him? All right. But anyhow, this is the trade screen of me trying to trade the rights for him. And I was going to offer some allocation money, but they went nuts and wanted draft picks and everything else. I'm like, reject. It ain't worth it. Done. Moving on. All right. Salary cap. This is probably the second most convoluted and complicated term in the MLS when it deals with football manager players. It's, once you understand the salary cap, I think it's a walk in the park. I think it's simple. I think a lot of people are not used to having a salary cap, and so they freak out when they see it and they overspend and all kinds of things. That is going to be its whole separate video later. Now, the salary cap is also known as the wage cap, the wage budget, or the salary budget. This is the salary that the league will pay for in its entirety of $5,210,000 for the year 2023. It covers your senior roster, which is your slots 1 to 20. It does not cover supplemental. All right, it covers your senior spots. That's $5,210,000 once again for 2023. Now, what I've done is I went and looked it up in the CBA. We don't need to even get into that. American sports are unique. In 2027, the salary cap is going to rise, and that does affect Football Manager. Every year between now and 2027, it's going to increase. I haven't played a save yet this year above that. I know in the past it has increased as well, so keep that in mind. The salary budget charge is the amount of salary that the league will pay per player. So if a player's salary is $100,000, then the salary budget charge for said player is $100,000 and the league pays for it in the salary cap. As long as you have room. We'll get into that in another episode. The max salary budget charge is the max amount of salary the league will pay per player. 2023, $651,250 is the max salary that player or that the league will pay for that player. That doesn't mean that's the max salary you can offer. We'll get into that later. That's just what the league will pay for. 2027, you can see how it's increased. Now, supplementary salaries, which is your slots 21 through 30, the league does not pay for them. They come out of your payroll budget, your wage budget, whatever you want to call it. Okay, it comes out of the payroll budget. Since we're in America, I'm going to go with American terms. 2023 for a senior minimum salary, it's $85,444. Notice it goes up in 27 and every year, between here and there and so forth. 2023 for the reserve salary is $67,360, and it goes up as well. Because of the collective bargaining agreement with the union and the league, salaries are going up. The maximum buy-down salary for anyone under the max budget charge. Remember what the max budget charge is. $651,250 is what it is. Okay. The max budget charge is 50% of the player's salary, or $150,000, whichever is less. And we'll get into buying down salaries in another episode too. I'm just trying to explain the salary cap at the moment to you. So, player one's salary is $400,000. The league pays that in its entirety. However, you can use allocation money to buy it down even cheaper. You can go either 50% or $150,000, whichever is less. In this case, 50% would be $200,000. So why not just buy it down another $50,000 to $150,000? Now, I want to make a note here. You do not have to buy down player salaries to the 50% or $150,000 mark. You don't have to. If you're $100,000 over your cap, you can just buy down $100,000 and you're good to go. Okay? You don't have to, but this is if you choose to do so. That's the max you can do it at. All right? Player two's example, his salary is $250,000. You can use allocation money to buy it down 50%, would be $125,000, or you could use it to the $150,000, whichever is less. Once again, the least amount is $125,000, so that's the max you're allowed to take it down to. I hope that makes sense. It's really not that complicated because in FMS you click your little slider and it does its magic for you. You don't have to go type in a value. It will do it for you. And once again, I will show you how to do that in Football Manager in a later episode. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The maximum buy-down salary for anyone that is over the max budget charge. Remember, the max budget charge, once again, per player is $651,250. Okay? The max salary you can offer for a senior player is $1 million over, and that's why it says here, that's a very important rule to note. And I'm going to explain you by showing you an example of my St. Louis club. When I first took them over, okay, this is what's going on, all right? Now, what that means is, in 2023, you can actually offer senior players more money than the max budget charge of $651,250, but you can't offer more than $1,651,250. That's where that million mark comes in. All right, and then I showed you the numbers for 27 also. Every year it's going to go up just like their salaries. Now, when I took over the team, I have 4 players that are making over $1 million annually, and I want you to see this. I have 2 designated players, which we'll get into that later, and I have 2 senior players. Okay, they are on senior contracts making more than what the league will pay them. Now, where does that money come from? My payroll budget. Okay, but here's the trick. Berkey, for example, is making $1,632,000. Not quite up to that $1 million mark, and I'm going to tell you right now that in real life, St. Louis Football Club, they did this exactly right to the penny. Okay, they're allowed to use target allocation money to buy his salary down to the max budget charge of $651,250. Okay, then they can buy his salary down even more with general allocation money. So all in all, there's a lot of ways to maneuver within the salary cap. Okay, I wanted to show you that so you understand that yes, it's possible to offer senior players like Berkey and Nielsen more money without making them a DP while staying within your salary cap using TAM and everything else. It's complicated, but just let's go with it, okay? It just gets really confusing, but that's why I'm going to have examples by playing through Football Manager and showing you, and we're going to cover it later. But anyway, guys, that's the end of this slideshow. Stay tuned. I'm going to have more terms and definitions coming up in part 4. Once again, if you like what I'm doing, please go ahead and leave a thumbs up, drop some comments, subscribe for more. Thanks, and have a good day.